Welcome to our seventh podcast of Talking Water Honestly. I want to thank our Executive Director and CEO of Louisville MSD, Tony Parrott, for the opportunity to execute his vision of gathering experts in the water sector to share their challenges, solutions, and lessons learned. My name is Zonetta English, the Strategic Initiatives and Project Delivery Director. I also have the esteemed pleasure of being the Community of Practice Director for Resilience, which includes the utility management community of the Water Environment Federation. Talking Water Honestly's mission is to develop content to assist utilities across the U.S. to solve their water challenges and share their expertise. This investment will save our organization's critical resources and provide smaller utilities access to vital information. In addition, these conversations provide an avenue for our ratepayers to gain insight into the intricate and complicated issues we face in providing critical services for our communities and introduce you to an array of dedicated water professionals. Welcome. Our topic of today's podcast is the circular water economy. Under the leadership of our Executive Director, Mr. Parrott, Louisville MSD is committed to innovation in the circular water economy. MSD is innovating across the organization, and we are using a multi-pronged approach to future sustainability. Our biosolids process solution project that utilizes thermal hydrolysis pretreatment technology for long-term beneficial reuse of solids and resource recovery. We're also in the process of converting to using processed water versus portable water for our rotary drum dryers. We estimate a savings of over $1 million per dryer a year based on a 24-hour per day operation. Also, we have implemented artificial intelligence, give us the tools to optimize operations, monitor, and reduce our chemical and energy consumption. Knowledge of the circular water economy varies within utilities, stakeholders, policymakers, and ratepayers. The Water Environment Federation includes the circular water economy as one of its strategic goals. In addition, WEF recently published Circular Economy 101, Closing the Gap. Congratulations to the WEF staff and the array of volunteers who contributed to this great publication. I want to thank our panelists for agreeing to be a part of today's discussion. And I'll turn it over to Mr. Jamie Decker with Hazen and Sawyer, who will be the moderator for our panel today.
Excellent. Thank you, Zanetta. And too, just excited for today's discussion on the circular water economy and grateful for our two panelists and want to introduce them to everyone here today. So our first panelist and guest on the podcast is Fadan Karamova. Fadan is the Senior Director at the Water Environment Federation, WEF, and over the circular water economy there, and is also part of AWWA's Circular Water Economy SIT group and the group chair with that. And joining her today is Nikki Holloway. Nikki is the lab supervisor with Beaver Water District in Arkansas and also is a group chair on the AWWA's Circular Water Economy SIT group and also the Water Quality Lab Committee Chair. So thank you both so much for being here and really looking forward to our discussion today. So to start off, just for all of our listeners that may not be aware or have heard much about the circular water economy, Nikki, do you want to just share a little bit about what should we know about the circular water economy and what does that mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And I am very excited to talk to everyone about this today because I think it is the coolest concept that's really coming to the forefront of the water industry. So, circular water economy may sound pretty foreign to most people, but it basically is a way to extract the full value of water. So, we're reducing waste, we're recovering resources, we're regenerating ecosystems, we're trying to create this resilient and valuable water system. And this kind of came about because, as we move into the future and water resources are getting stressed and money is tight and infrastructure is failing all over the place, we're reaching this oh no, kind of crisis moment. Where we decided we really need to rethink the way that the water industry is ran. And so we're looking ahead into the future to try to figure out how to do more with less and how to make that, economically viable because there's money involved in all of this. It's definitely public health at the forefront, but, we have to be able to pay to make the water. and we don't want to sell water that's, exorbitantly expensive. Try to be as inclusive as we can with everyone. So in circular water, we're moving from this linear kind of flow. So we take the water out of the source, whatever that may be, river, lake, groundwater. We treat the water, it goes to people, and then wastewater, and then it gets dumped back somewhere else into a creek afterwards. So this like linear flow where we're adding resources the whole way through. We're adding energy, we're adding chemicals, we're producing sludge and waste and things like that. The circular economy is looking at that more like a loop. So think about your recycling circle, right? Reduce, reuse, recycle. Well, this is kind of similar, and you're going to hear a little bit more about this from Fadon later, how we've kind of transformed that recycling circle into something for circular water economy, where we're looking at all of our inputs and all of the things coming out and kind of rethinking, how can we reduce our input load? How can we reuse the things that are coming out of this process? Is there something that we could be doing with the sludge that we're not doing? Is there a way to, reduce the energy it takes to treat the water in general? And we're really looking at it as the one water approach. So we're looking at industrial water, we're looking at agricultural water, wastewater, drinking water, stormwater, you name it. It's all, we're all in this together, right? So we're really trying to bring in stakeholders, and it's just a really giant, cool circle web of water that everyone's going to hear a lot more about today. So very cool.
Yeah, that's yeah, definitely very cool, Nikki. And I think, as we talked beforehand, getting ready for this, what stood out to me, this isn't, there's a lot of other initiatives around and other industry within the water industry and others too that, this is really kind of encompasses a lot of these. So it's not really something new. It's just really kind of incorporating a lot of those other things that that AWWA has done, that WEF's done, the U.S. Water Alliance, and others have already done. So, another thing I think Fadan, you may have mentioned too, that that this is really, I mean, something for any utility, for anybody too, and that the barrier to entry to this is not high. Do you want to touch a little bit more onto that?
Yeah, absolutely. And to Nikki's point of this web circle of water, at the end of the day, it's one water. We don't have new sources of water coming to our planet, unfortunately, but actually, fortunately for us, we have to think differently. And hence the concept of reducing waste, making sure that we're closing the loop first by making sure that it doesn't become a problem for water resource recovery facilities. And we take care of the leaks beforehand, and we make sure that we look ahead, and if there are leaks forming, we take care of them as soon as possible. Recovering, to Nikki's point, is making sure that we're actually looking at nutrients and energy and recycling that energy, using it as a source of energy at a water resource recovery facility, and taking those biosolids and land applying them in some cases. In other cases, actually doing the thermal hydrolysis process or hydrothermal liquefaction processes that actually turn it into energy that can be reused, and then regenerating, making sure that we're working with nature, whether that's nature-based solutions, stormwater integration with nature as much as possible. And utilities have been doing this. This is not a novel concept. Everyone has been doing an aspect of circular water economy. Now we're just calling it circular water economy, but it's not a crazy new idea. The most platinum example of circular water economy is actually in Kallenberg Symbiosis. That's in Denmark. They've been active for 5 decades at this point, and they have pretty staggering statistics to show that this really works. They employ about 6,500 people. They have 16 global partners, all in this one campus, essentially, working together to extract the waste, let's call it, from one facility and use it as a source of energy at another one. And then they have to date reduced about 80% of the carbon dioxide emissions since 2015. And when it comes to water, they have saved, the partners have saved about 1 billion gallons of groundwater by focusing on water reuse. That's an international example, but there are a lot of local examples, national examples that Nikki and I will get into as well.
Mhm.
When we're talking about reduce, recover, regenerate, one that focuses on reduce specifically, there's a hotel in California, the Waldorf Astoria in Beverly Hills. It's a five-star, very fancy hotel. But a lot of people don't know they have actually implemented an on-site gray water reuse system. So all of the water, and that's technology from Epic Clean Tech, all of the water is being recycled from the guest showers and the laundry, and it's used for irrigating and the landscaping. And then the other cool aspect of Epic Clean Tech is they have a reuse beer. They just launched it earlier this year. It has a very catchy name, Shower Hour IPA. And another one is Laundry Club Kolsch. And the whole concept is to make sure that people are realizing that just because they flush it down the toilet, the water does not disappear. It ends up back in our faucets eventually, but there is a story for water to tell. Nikki, did you want to highlight some examples as well?
Yeah, for sure. So Don, you mentioned, we're replenishing nature through a lot of these case studies and projects going on across the country. And I recently found out about one in eastern Arkansas, so small little place where they were having issues with their aquifer depletion. So it's a very agricultural area, and most people are using treated drinking water for irrigation. So part of the project, they created an aqueduct. So ancient Roman technology, right, to bring surface water over to irrigate their crops, and thus, taking the load off of the aquifer and regenerating the aquifer. So small town, big project, and huge results from that. So definitely a great example of regenerating things. There's some other things going on in our state that kind of show that you don't have to be a giant water provider to be able to do some of these projects. I recently presented some of these at a very local small water conference to some of the utilities that were doing these projects, and they had no idea that they were doing circular water projects. They saw their, treatment plant pop up on the screen and got, very excited about it. And I had no idea we were doing such cool stuff. Yes, you are. You're all doing cool
Right,
stuff.
right, yeah.
But there's a local treatment plant here in Northwest Arkansas that their wastewater plant is using on-site reuse. So they're pumping their treated effluent into a utility water system for their wash downs and other like non-potable water uses. So it's been a huge cost savings for the utility even. They're saving around 15% on their operating expenses just by redirecting this little bit of water back into their processes. So not a huge capital cost, but a big capital gain. And then, we're being circular, we're saving water. Very cool.
And to Nikki's point, it's not just within the local communities, it also expands out, and it's all through partnerships and working together. The public-private partnership is the way to go and to move this forward. Other examples, there's one in Loudon Water in Virginia that is the world's largest data center hub, for those that did not know. And just in 2023, they provided over 815 million gallons of recycled water for cooling data centers. So, an example of a water resource recovery facility working with data centers. Another example, and actually, speaking of AI and data centers, I did want to mention that we have the Water AI Nexus Center of Excellence, and it's looking at two aspects of AI. It's looking at water for AI to make sure that we are covering the aspect of how AI is using water, and AI for water to see how AI can help improve the processes through the latest developments, through the latest technologies. It has two aspects to it. And then, in terms of regenerating nature, to continue along the theme of working with nature and what Nikki was talking about for regeneration, did want to do a shout out for Charlotte Water They have beehives, and this is the honey that they create. So they have beehives and they produce 1 to 6 gallons of honey per hive every year. And apparently, this honey has won a lot of awards. It is tasty, I will attest to that. And there are a lot of other examples of what's happening at utility levels with nature and with other partners. We just need to do a better job of highlighting it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Those are great examples, both Nikki and Fadan, that you shared. And Zanette, I know that you mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, but just want to kind of reiterate some of the things that Louisville's doing there with both the thermal hydrolysis project, and some of the dryer project as well. But do you just want to touch on those again, and just again how those are tying into the circular water economy aspect?
Yes, Jamie, I'm just really excited. For those who've been hearing about Louisville MSD and our THP project, we're about at 60% construction, so we're ready and be going. But
Yeah.
From the very beginning, we looked at this is look from a sustainability standpoint. And the benefits of the THP is that we'll have a 100% solid reuse, and that's important. Well, also, but because of the volatile solids destruction, will we reduce our solids by 30%. So even if they go to the landfill, we will, for some reason, we'll be able to reduce our dependency on that as well. And we're very proud that we'll still be producing a high class um, quality product, Class A product, for agricultural reuse. And then we're also recovering energy. So it'll be equivalent to like 4 megawatts of power um, and enough electricity to run 4,000 homes. And then also we'll save about 2.5 million gallons of gas per year. So that's really, really important. And then we're also looking at getting our increase of our digester gas reduction by 300%. So we've looked at renewable natural gas that hasn't quite come to fruition, but what we will be able to save by even using in-house is that we will be able to uh, use that gas to heat our dryers that we have, our rotary drum dryers, and also heat our steam boilers. So that equivalent costs about $1.4 million a year. And we're also looking at, our processed water. We do have another form of be able to produce Class A as rotary drum dryers, and we use city water. And so, through this project, we've come up with making some adjustments in our processed water pipes, strainers, so that we can reduce our dependency. So we're talking about saving about $6,000 a day, and reducing that amount of water. And right now, Louisville is one of an area that we don't have to really worry about, not having enough water, but that may not always be the case. So we ought to really be looking at that and be forward thinking in terms of water reuse as well. So those are some of the exciting projects that we have. And, an artificial intelligence, when you're thinking about what you're talking about, the AI nexus, MSD has been on the forefront of that. Mr. Parrott was a very visionary in wanting to implement that. So we've been doing that since 2021. So we've
Mm.
implemented four of our regional plants. And the overall goal for that project was it's not to replace staff. Okay. It's used as a training tool for them. We've also assist with regionalization. We've also purchased 17 facilities outside of Jefferson County. But the key to that is that we've added only a couple of operators, an electrician, a maintenance person, and a supervisor. So we were able to cover more ground with less staff. And then it's also allowed us to optimize our operation efficiency, looking at predictive maintenance for motors. So all this reduced the amount of cost, smooth out our operations. And then it helps us also to monitor our energy and chemical usage. So we've been able to be more consistent in terms of even that the dosage out, and actually we reduced the amount of dosage that we have used for disinfection. And we've also helped this um, definitive data to help to even to make capital decisions. So it has been really a game changer for us in terms of what we're doing, and we're very, very excited about all the efforts that we have. And there's plenty, plenty more, but those are the ones that I'll highlight because those are the ones I participated.
Well, another shout out for Louisville MSD actually. The Ford Motor Company was at Industrial Water Solutions Conference about 2 weeks ago, and they are implementing some awesome initiatives related to water reuse. But they are also working with Louisville MSD to implement a pollution prevention project. And they reduced city water usage by over 5 million gallons in their first year because of water reuse. So,
Very
Yeah,
cool.
great. That's
All
awesome. And
right,
yeah,
y'all. I'm
oh,
gonna brag about my specific water plant for a second. Okay.
good.
sure, as you should.
So, yeah, I work for a water wholesale provider in Northwest Arkansas. We're a pretty big treatment facility for Arkansas. So we're sitting at around 140 million gallons a day currently with a plant upgrade that just broke ground for a new treatment plant to bump us up to 220. So we're not giant, but we're not itty bitty either. But we have had a few projects over the past few years that fit so well into circular water economy. And once I started looking around the plant, I was like, we're doing really great, y'all. Like, look at all this stuff we're doing. So one of the projects that I want to highlight is our filter to waste recovery system. So if you're familiar with water treatment, we're a conventional treatment facility. So, we add coagulant, goes through the basins, everything falls out of the water, moves to the filters, very conventional. What we found was that we were wasting a ton of just almost potable water through our filter to waste flows. So when you're backwashing your filters, some of it's going to be nasty and it goes into the solids recovery area. But a lot of that water, especially at the end, is almost ready to go. So we're like, how can we better utilize this and not waste all this water that we spent so much time and energy and love into treating already? So we are taking that water at the end of the filter backwash cycles and cycling it back to the head of our treatment facility. So that way it runs back through the process, but we don't have to pull as much water from the lake, which is quite a ways away. So we're reducing energy pumping. We're not taking as much water from the source. And then the water coming through our system is already a little bit cleaner because some of it's already been treated. So our chemical input load is lower that way too, and our sludge that we're producing gets reduced. So that was a very cool project. And
That's
then,
awesome.
yeah, I love it.
That-
And then
That's great.
recently, we just turned on our new solar park. So we created around a 32-acre solar park, produces around 5 megawatts of energy a day. And if you work in a utility or do any accounting for a utility, the energy use is almost, it might be our biggest expense every year. So running all those giant pumps, it's expensive. We're our electric company's best customer. But with this new solar array, we're going to cover around 15 to 20% of our annual electricity demand. So we're cutting down on quite a bit of energy that we're having to pull off of the grid. And then already, our area is growing so fast that, honestly, our grid needs all the energy they can get anyway, just to keep up with population growth. So it's kind of our way to give back to the community, help ourselves, help the environment. It's just a big win-win for everyone.
Yeah, that's awesome, Nikki. Thanks for sharing those. And we'll talk a little bit more about this later, but we'll provide a link to the website for WEF, and there's a number of case studies on there that, again, I think what we want to make sure everyone that's aware of that, it's not just large utilities or it's industries, it's utilities, it's cities there, and it's large and small. There's a lot of different opportunities out there to get involved and to be able to show and realize some of these benefits that are huge that Zanetta and Nikki and Fadan have each shared about too. And it's, I think, across the industry we see, everyone is trying to do more with less. And so how do we, again, take these opportunities to provide back to our communities and to the environment, but also seeing these other financial benefits, as well as with staff and other items too. So I think it's a win. Like you said, it's a win-win-win for everybody, Nikki. So I guess too, what are some of the other things we talked about, with the environment and with utilities and the financial pieces of it, but what else is the circular water economy solving? And yeah, and I think maybe even with, with the book that just came out, how does that help support, utilities as they're getting into this or want to find out more about it? Fadan, do you want to touch on that a little
Sure.
bit?
Happy to.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a great way to engage the future generation. We actually have a chapter in the book, and I'm going to keep showing it because it's awesome, on Elevate, highlighting the stories of circular water economy, bringing it to a level where we should all be talking about circular water economy successes at any level, smaller utility, young professionals that have just entered the industry. And the Elevate chapter was written by our student and young professional community member. And they're talking about ways for the young generation to get engaged just simply by knowing what is the circular water economy and helping connect the dots with what already exists. Again, we're not reinventing the wheel, we're just highlighting what currently exists. And going back to the financing, because a lot of times, especially nowadays, we need to prove that this works, and hence the
Right.
economy piece to the story. There's a report that we published last year, and this report is available for anyone that is interested. It's talking about the dollar value of implementing circular water economy initiatives, and it's estimated at $47 billion in direct economic value that circular water economy initiatives will have at a utility level. And this is just looking at the United States. So think about the dollar value or whatever economic value you use on a global level. It will be significantly higher. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
Nikki, did you want to highlight your case studies, your perspectives?
Well, I already did a few, but I wanted to kind of touch on bringing the next generation into the circular water economy talk. So I think that we really, really need to be engaging the folks just coming into the water industry, the folks at universities doing water research, because they're coming in with all of these big, shiny ideas because, they haven't been in the system and in their minds, everything is fresh and new and full of possibility. And those are the kinds of ideas and thoughts that we really need within circular water economy and just in bringing the water industry to the future anyway, integrating, machine learning and AI and all these technological advances, looking at things like why are we doing this? And getting the, well, it's just the way we've always done it answer. But they're already generating solutions to issues that other people don't even see as issues just because they've been working in it for so long that it's just part of the job. So I really think we need to be leaning into these younger professionals coming into our industry and making sure that they have a seat at the table as well when we're talking about these projects. And other people you need to be bringing into these discussions. So because circular water economy does touch on so many different areas, we need to make sure that we're bringing in, utility leaders, obviously, the younger professionals, let them have a seat at the table.
Yep.
City planners need to be a part of this because it's not just, drinking water, wastewater, industrial water. It's everybody has to kind of start working together and liking each other and communicating more and planning as a whole and not just planning for your utility but planning as a region because we're all affecting each other in one way, shape, or form. And, I've seen industry with ideas and processes and ways that they're going about treating things or, things that they're doing that could easily be applied in a utility setting, but we just don't know those things exist because we haven't been talking to each other. They may have a use for our water that we don't know about. Currently we're looking for ways to reduce our sludge output. So we're conventional treatment. We have alum as our coagulant. Alum sludge is really hard to get rid of. Nobody wants to take it. So looking at ways to maybe recover the aluminum out of that sludge or ways to turn that sludge into something beneficial. Are working with some local researchers on potential ways to reduce that, exorbitant amount that we're producing that we kind of have to produce because we got to treat the water, right? So what are we going to do with this now?
And on a national level, speaking of who else needs to be at the table, there are a lot of water associations, all of them working together, collaborating, and bringing in the community representatives, the utilities, and going back to the young generation. I'll turn to Zonetta. 2 weeks ago, she was talking to the Stockholm Junior Water Prize representatives. I'm sure she has some highlights from the conversations there and what she saw.
Oh my gosh, there were so many great projects, but they're so forward thinking on how to solve our water challenges. We had 47 students out of the 50 states to participate, and then they brought them to the conference, and there were about 20, and just their poster boards and how forward thinking they are, and how they're able to just take just very basic tools and things and take it to a new level of helping us to solve our water challenges. So it was really, really great. They're very, very smart, and we've got to figure out a way to retain them after they go on to college and come out into the workforce. So that's one of the things I really, really hope that we can be forward thinking and try to make sure we reach back and make sure that we follow them throughout their career.
And you were a judge for that, right?
Yeah, I was. So I actually wasn't needed at the conference, but I actually reviewed the papers and did the virtual interviews. And like I said, they were all impressive. And it just made us very, very excited about what the future of water is. We just got to keep them in the water sector because everybody
That's
else is
right.
going to grab them. And so that's I'll be our next challenge to do that.
Well,
Yeah,
they're going to come work for water and fall in love, just like all of us did with the
that's
industry.
right.
Yeah, but yeah, establishing a connection if you're a local utility to the closest university to you is invaluable because we have so many grad students and professors who are looking for research projects, a good thesis project, a good dissertation project. And that's a fantastic way to start a project that you might not have the resources at your utility to carry out, but it's going to be, the work of a lifetime for these young students and professors. We have a local university here in Arkansas, U of A, go Hogs, that's just right down the road from us, and we have a great relationship with them. We have a pilot plant on our treatment facility, so we'll bring in grad students to do their research projects, and they're getting a lot out of it. We're getting a lot out of it, and we're getting those big shiny ideas, that we may not have otherwise.
And we
Yeah.
won't spend a lot of time today, but I would be remiss if I didn't mention the Water Research Foundation.
Mm.
That is a huge program that we just got through releasing 22 RFPs, and we're going to provide funds for over $6.2 million to fund some research projects. So there's a lot out there. We've just got to get the information out to utilities. And what this whole podcast is designed to do. There's a lot of synergy and a lot of strategic partnerships. We all have our unique, each of these organizations have their unique goals and their expertise, but there's always ways that we can work together to continue to move forward the water sector and providing safe and clean waterways to our communities. And I think we're all can agree to that.
Absolutely. And I think that is what is amazing with the circular water economy and even what this, with the book out there, just to give a common language for everybody to talk about. And really, I think, as we're saying here, is about having those conversations, making those partnerships. I know I've seen here in Ohio, just with the formation of the Water Reuse Association here, just the connections between, like you're saying, Nikki, with universities, with our regulators at Ohio EPA, other state agencies, and the water utilities, all working together to figure out how do we make this possible? How do we start to do more reuse and look at some of these other benefits too? But again, bringing all of those people together and having those conversations and talking about of this in that kind of common language of the circular water economy is huge. Fadon, I know earlier you mentioned too, we're just talking about the benefits, and I think each of you talked a little bit of some of those different benefits, but we will share in the show notes today just that report that talks about the financial benefits in particular that can be realized with U.S. utilities in that white paper. But again, I think we've each touched on just the ways for reduction in energy or potable water use or chemical use, ways that this can help support your staff. Obviously, reducing pollution in the environment too. And I think those, again, all of those just, again, tie together with that. For other individuals or businesses, Nikki, do you want to, we touched on some of these other things too, but a little bit. But Nikki, how do other people get involved or find out more about the circular water economy and how that can, be incorporated into their community?
Yeah, absolutely. So unfortunately, it's not really something that's being talked about in a lot of communities yet.
Yet.
But if you're interested in getting involved in your local community, I would reach out to your local water providers, check and see what they have going on. Also, city planners, attend those town hall meetings, just really try to get involved. And you may be the one starting the conversations because those conversations might not be happening. But I guarantee if reach out to the right people, that they will get started because it's something that benefits, everybody in your area. You're going to benefit your industries, your utilities, local folks. Maybe you reduce your water rates or something. I don't know, because, your utility can suddenly have a new revenue source selling their water to make recycled beer. You never know. But you just got to start asking the questions, reaching out and asking the questions.
Absolutely. If Don, in particular for utilities that want to learn more about this, I know there's a lot of resources out there, and let's maybe touch on some of those resources. I know there's a lot that WEF has put together that you've had help with. You want to touch on a few different ones to be aware of, and just
Yeah.
bring more awareness to that?
Sure thing. And there are a lot of resources from a lot of associations, even utilities. So I'll just talk about some that we have helped put together. One of them, I'm going to go back to this book because it's a great way to show it again. But the first chapter is highlighting the key definitions. And we have the circular water economy discussion and a group of people, over 100 people at this point, that have been talking about working together. And it does include industry, utility, regulators, academics, technology providers, so a wide range of members. And the biggest piece to them has been we are kind of talking past each other. And in order not to do that, we need to be speaking from the same playbook. We need to be reading at least the same book, at least be on
Yeah,
the same chapter. So, chapter one, it has key definitions and it's available for free. That's a great way to start, just to even have a conversation like this. And then there are two courses that I wanted to highlight. There's the Circular Water Economy 101 course, which is 2.5 hours, and it's available online, on demand. There's also, speaking of AI, going back to that, there's an AI 101 course that's an hour and a half. So those two are pretty simple to take and they're again on demand. So you could start learning about what is this industry? How does circular water economy connect to all of this work? And there's a slew of case studies to your point, Jamie, that you highlighted, over 40 at this point. And Nikki, we need to get your case studies in there as well so that people know that this is happening on every level. It's not just industry, it's not just utility. Universities are innovating and working on circular water economy. So making sure the biggest piece to all of this is highlighting the examples and stories and initiatives like this so more people are aware of what's going on.
that's great, Fadon. Yeah, thank you. And like I said, we'll put links to all of those in the show notes. Nikki, I know there's other resources that AWWA has out there. Do you want to touch on some of those?
Yeah, sure. So AWWA's big initiative right now is Water 2050.
Right.
So we were One Water for a while, and we've enhanced One Water to Water 2050. And One Water is just a little piece of the Water 2050 puzzle. But Water 2050 was really just looking at how we need to reshape utilities to move into the future to the year 2050 and beyond. So, as part of that, they, decided, what do we need to look at? What do we need to focus on to really make change happen in our industry? And one of the core drivers that they came up with through this huge discussion with bringing in people from, all over the world, all kinds of industries, people in the water, people outside the water industry, circular water economy was one of those pillars that just shows you how important this work is. So we have created a strategic plan towards 2050 with circular economy being one of the key drivers. We've created strategic implementation teams, or SITs, that you probably heard mentioned in this presentation already. And the SIT groups are really tasked with bringing that strategic plan to life, because something, written on a piece of paper is no good without an action plan behind it. So AWWA put in place these action plans to really get these things off the ground. And as far as our SID and what we've been doing, so we spent the first year focusing on education. What is circular water economy, which a lot of you watching this or listening to this podcast are finding out about today. So just, getting that playbook out there and closing the loop, making sure we're all talking in the same language. We produce a slide deck that could be used at any presentation at any level inside the industry or outside the industry to give you ready-made talking points about circular economy. So, if you're in your community and you're forming that group around circular water economy, you don't have to start from scratch introducing the topic to regulators, to stakeholders. So that's out there in the interwebs. We are also working on a roadmap to circularity. So the first year was more, abstract, big picture thinking, but now we're really trying to engage the utilities and show them that they can do this and this is how you do it. So step-by-step action plans, who to talk to, what to think about, pitfalls to avoid, including these great case study examples that Fadon and Wef have been collecting from all over the world, and just to show them that you can do it and this is actually how you do it. So it doesn't have to be conceptual anymore.
And speaking of partnership, the roadmap to circularity, we're happy to be working with AWWA on that. And also, they're part of the circular water economy framework crosswalk discussion that we've been having. The 100+ people includes Nikki too.
Yeah.
And Zonetta.
That's right.
Yeah,
I think go ahead. I'm sorry, Nikki.
sorry. And within AWWA still, even if you're not engaged in the circular water economy SIT group, we have a ton of, communities and committees and places where you can plug in and get involved. They may not be called circular water economy, but they're participating in things that bring people towards circularity. So we have committees on industrial use, water reuse, utility management, a plethora of others where these ideas are being talked about. I just heard a committee report last week talking about machine learning and AI and circular principles, and like, hey, we're doing that too. That's cool. Let's collaborate on something. So there's so many places to plug in and, get involved. And, it's not just, as Fadam mentioned, it's not just AWWA, it's not just WEF. We have great tools from other organizations like the World Bank has a circularity assessment tool where you can, input details on your project and assess like the circularity of your project, which is fantastic. And what I really love about this initiative is that, we're not reinventing the wheel, we're learning from each other. and using each other's tools. So it's not like, well, this is yours and this is mine. It's more of a, this is for the benefit of everybody. And I love that all of these big water organizations are approaching it like that too. We're in this together. This is big and
Yeah,
we have to work together. And it's just been really amazing to see the collaboration happening in real time.
absolutely. I think that is really amazing. And I'm glad you mentioned about some of the communities and ways to get involved. Again, like we've said, there's not necessarily called circular water economy, but it touches on so many of those. And Zanette, I know you're a community of practice director in WEF for resiliency, and again, there's a number of communities that this touches as well. Do you want to share just a few of those that for people that could get involved and ones to just be on the lookout for?
Oh, in terms of the communities,
Yeah,
well, we have the utility management community. You have the intelligent water that works on those. We also have small systems. So that touches a lot about distributing water and all the challenges with that. And then we also have safety, cyber, and infrastructure security. So there's just, and all of those have aspects that are touching on all of these issues. So we're constantly looking for new members, and we'd like to invite each one of you all that if you have some expertise or there's a problem that you want to solve to get in touch with us. We can also put the links into under WEF Unity to where you can get in touch with those community leadership,
Yeah, there are over
absolutely.
each of
20
those.
communities.
Right.
Hard to keep
Yeah.
track of all of the names, but
Mhm.
there are many, and they dive deep into specific topics.
They certainly
Yes,
do. Yeah.
they do.
And we're all looking, and each one of us have been given the task to be able to work together. And we've also all recognized that we are also doing things that touch other communities. And so they're actively trying to connect. And then we're also going back to our state membership associations and also making sure we're connecting with those and be able to provide critical resources to those MAs because we would not be where we are at WEF without those membership associations.
Yeah, absolutely. Another way, again, just I think for people to get involved or learn more is obviously with some of the different conferences, and obviously we're just coming off the heels of ACE, and I hear that there was a good panel, a great panel that was there. Nikki or Zanetta, do you want to share a little bit about that panel and again other opportunities for people to hear more about the circular water economy?
Yeah, if I do say so myself, it was a fantastic panel. Zonetta was one of our speakers, so it was amazing. But the panel was to really highlight case studies and implementation of circular water economy, real world stuff that's going on. So it's not just abstract, this is actively happening and has been happening for a long time. You just didn't know it. So we had a couple folks talking about circular water economy projects. So Zanetta got to highlight some of their amazing projects. We had, an international perspective also from the World Bank that, hey, this isn't just a United States problem. This isn't just a North America thing. This is something that's being worked on all across the world because we're all seeing the need for this to be part of the utility and industry future. We also got to tie it in with AI and technology and machine learning, which was fantastic too, because to reach circularity and to make these projects a reality, having those digital tools can speed up the process, so much by just knowing what's out there and how to use it. And that really lowers that barrier of entry for smaller utilities that may not have, the money or manpower to devote to the big capital projects. Smaller improvements using technology, it doesn't have to be, high tech, but there's a lot of lower cost tools that they can use and implement to, conserve resources when they're starting these projects. And, it was just nice to have everybody in the same room talking about all the different facets of what's going on in circularity.
That's great. Yeah, that is fantastic. I know another, obviously, WEFTech is going to be coming up this fall in September, and just wanted from the utility management community, we always host the Leadership Roundtable as part of that. And again, this year, the topic that we're going to be discussing at that Leadership Roundtable is the circular water economy. So another opportunity for anyone that's going to be at WEFTech to hear more from some other leaders in the industry and talk with your other peers in leadership and with other utilities. It's just how that is working and how to better implement that too. So, Fadan, I know you've also mentioned that there's also a theater around the circular water economy that's going to be at WEFTech.
That's right. On the exhibit floor, there are multiple theaters actually. There's a Water AI
Right.
Nexus theater, there's an innovation theater, a global theater highlighting circular water economy case studies essentially. And there is a very focused circular water economy theater. And going back to how to get more people engaged, there's a Water Leadership Institute program that WEF runs to engage more of the young professionals in the water industry. They will be making presentations there on circular water economy. So again, closing the loop. We'll just keep repeating that.
That's right. Well, to start to close the loop on this podcast, just wanted to maybe ask a question to each of you. Just, what do you think the water sector needs in the next 3 to 5 years to truly make the circular water economy part of every utility? Um, and maybe even with that too, what are some, impediments or some roadblocks that you see to implementation or that you've heard?
So I think, what we really need to make this a reality is going to be exposure and education. Just letting people know that this is a thing, that when they're upgrading their systems, when they're fixing things, that these are projects that they can roll into what they're doing. They don't just have to replace what they always had, that there are other ways and other opportunities, and just the education that these projects shouldn't be seen as an expenditure a lot of times. And in a lot of these case studies, you actually end up saving way more money than you spent on the project. The return on investment is there, and just drilling that in, that hey, it's good for the environment, it's good for the industry, but it's also good for your bottom line in most cases. Just that general education, I think, is needed. And that's also the roadblock, just how do
Yeah.
we reach all these people? How do we reach the rural utilities that aren't involved in the bigger associations? Maybe it's cost prohibitive or they can't travel to conferences or what have you. But how are we going to reach those folks where this education could really make a huge difference?
I'd agree with that.
Through this podcast.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say conversations like this.
Yeah.
Just on this conversation, I learned a lot about Nikki, your work at your utility. I already knew the awesome things that Nozoneta has been doing, but even more so, having more convenings like this so we can share information, share stories, and learn more about one another. Because the best way to move the needle on circular water economy is more collaboration, but we can't really do that if we don't talk to one another. So this is great. Thank you, Zonetta. Thank you to Tony Parrott as well. Thank you, Jamie.
You're so welcome. Thank you for being here.
I know that, I mean, for me, like, as you guys talked about, the next generation of leaders and just how important it is for them to be aware of this and to be focusing on making that a reality. And again, making this, part of this conversation around the industry. And there's so many different opportunities, I think, and again, large and small utilities, communities across our country, across the world, really, that can really benefit from this thinking and this type of mentality, and just seeing what those opportunities are is huge. So that's been kind of a key takeaway for me today. And again, so many other resources that you guys mentioned today. We'll have a lot of things in the show notes for people to find out more. But again, just I think, yeah, this has been a great conversation, and I've learned a ton from it, and I hope others have as well. So with that, Zanetta, I'm going to turn it over to you to wrap us up.
Oh, well, I just want to thank each one of you all for being here today. I think this is really a timely topic. I want to just thank you for being able to highlight the hard work that you all have done in regards to the water circular economy, and just to remind our audience that many utilities are engaged in the circular water economy and have sustainable vision without realizing it. And this is important for us to continue to identify these activities and promote throughout your organization and to your ratepayers. And we just got to continue to tell the story. And because ultimately, we all are in this together in our goal to protect our environment, community health, and be able to do it in a cost-effective way. And just really want to thank each one of you all for being here with us today, and look forward to the continued collaboration and conversations and storytelling. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Nikki. Thank you, Fidan. Thank you, Zanetta. Again, just really appreciate everybody. Thank you, MSD, for making this podcast happen as well, too. So again, reach out to us if people have more questions. Our contact will be in the end of the video and in the show notes, and as well take a look at all of those resources in the show notes, too. So again, thank you all. Wonderful conversation. Hope to have many more of these conversations in the future, too. Have a great day, everyone.